would you please sign in at the table? We have record of your attendance here. And our president is missing. He's in Boston, Massachusetts. He's going to be there this weekend for the football game. But he's up there on duty, so I'm going to fill in for him tonight. So bear with me. Okay. Our Planning and Zoning Commission will be in session at 7:30. And first call of order is approval of the minutes on 20 November. Anybody read those and ready to discuss those?
That was a short one. I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as written.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion's carried. Next on the agenda is our Board of Zoning Appeals. Michelle, you got anything for that?
I have no report.
Nothing. Okay, thank
Nothing.
you. How about town, Steve?
Just a few things for the commission. One important item, last Tuesday night at the town council meeting, we had a public hearing on ordinance 211, which extends the building moratorium an additional 6 months. As you well know, with all the changes coming down from MDE, it's like chasing a target on getting our water, wastewater, and our stormwater study all together. So we requested a 6 months extension to that, and the mayor and the council approved that. Also, one project, just to let you in on, the mayor and the council also gave me a project to look into as far as solar for the town. I did sign a contract with a company who will be doing a feasibility study for the town. We're looking at a 1.5 megawatt system, which would be at our spray irrigation facility. We also have 2 other spots that the possibility exists that we could put 2 additional systems at those locations also. But right now, we're looking at compensating 21 of our 31 electrical accounts to offset those electrical costs. So it's going to be a good, pretty decent project. I'll keep the board up to speed as we meet, through the summer. So.
It's about how many years is it going to be in process?
Actually, if we're trying to expedite it as quick as we can, I can't really give you a date as far as when we could get construction started, but it would probably be a 6-month construction period,
Good.
and then we would move on from there. So pretty excited about that.
So we'll get it into the 21st century.
We will. Yeah, save some money too.
There we go. Sounds good. Okay, thank you. Town Council, Doug?
Steve pretty much hit it.
You pretty well put that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. How about the county, Bobby? I got anything going on?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I do want to update you on one item. A few months ago, I reported that the Maryland Department of the Environment had disapproved the triennial update to the Carroll County Water and Sewer Master Plan. That was in June of last year. And in the subsequent months, people in my office were feverishly feverishly trying to figure out what the state wanted, what changes were needed to make the plan palatable. So that was worked on, and the kind of a draft revised plan was hand-delivered to the Maryland Department of the Environment on December 14th. That was on a Friday. I believe Andrea Gerhard in my office met with Steve and Michelle to go over a few things,
Correct.
answer questions, kind of, I guess, make things a little bit more understandable as far as what we think the state is looking for. But for the overall document, we did make a few changes, provided some additional data. I believe in the case of Manchester, there were no changes to the plan service area, the overall plan service area for public water and public sewer. So that has been delivered, and we are basically asking the state to give us feedback on, are we on the right track? Is this what you're looking for? So stay tuned. I will keep you
Okay.
abreast. I'm sure we'll have to conduct another public hearing at our end because there are some substantial changes in the document. But it is in their hands now, so we'll see.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next on our agenda is number 4, is number 1 North, initial presentation on their project.
Yes.
Huh?
Dan Staley with DRS and Associates, with the surveyors for the
Okay.
project. And my clients would just like to have a little bit of direction from the planning commission. Based on the sketch plans up here on the board tonight. They'd like to move from 1 North, up about 1 block up the street to the
One block.
old Miller property. Their plans are to demo the old house and then build a 3,000 square foot retail liquor store with 2 apartments on top. The idea of the plan, if you have a plan for the idea of the plan is
Yeah, we have some.
keep the building up to the street line, to keep in line with the other buildings, keep the streetscape in conformity with what's there now. Put the parking in the rear. The store would actually have 2 fronts, one on the street side and one towards the parking lot. If you notice, we, the alley to the north, we're showing that widen out to 20 feet so we can get 2-way traffic in there. And then the alley in the back, same thing, we pull a curb line back to get 2-way traffic there. And then, of course, to load the store, there is a loading area in the rear of the store that the trucks can come in and stay off Main Street to provide product for the store. So again, what they're looking for is just a consensus that, yes, the sketch plan looks reasonable. I think they want, just get a warm fuzzy feeling before they make a commitment and buy the property. Of course, after, if everything goes well tonight, then of course they proceed with the site plan, meeting all the, current town and county criteria as far as landscaping, stormwater, water, sewer, sediment control, all the necessary ingredients to get a plan approved. We'll be back in front of you probably once or twice more to get to our ends.
So you'll come back next time?
Well, if the council agrees that this is a reasonable plan to proceed with, I'm sure it's going to probably be a month or 2 till we do necessary surveying work and prepare a plan, and, get all the right ingredients on the plan, but we'll be back here again, setting out the county agencies for review. So it's not going to be next month.
Okay, oh, no, okay. Okay, very good. We have something that you're looking at. Anybody got any comments?
Is the lot in question one single lot today, or is it 2 lots that need to be combined?
I'm not sure I can answer that. If you look at the Old Town map, when the town was originally laid out, it was 2 lots. This particular lot here, you can search back through the land records, and you will not find a description of this particular lot as far as meets and bounds. The Old Town lots, I think, were laid out at, I think it was 2.5 purchase wide and I think 6 purchase deep. So, and then there was one piece office, but what's on the plan is what's on the ground today. There's corners that are marked out there.
Okay.
It's all under 1 deed, if that answers your question.
Building actually appears to be slightly further forward than what the porch is today. Is that correct? If I'm reading this wrong, right? Okay. But that is in keeping with the buildings that are to the north and south of
This
it?
building here is actually a little bit further back off the street than the adjoining buildings.
Okay, so it would set back a little bit. Okay.
What we try to do is provide a landscape area in front of the building, that we, add some minimal landscaping there. And again, I felt that the building was more appropriate up close to the street line, keeping with the streetscape the way it is right now. When we originally had talked about setting the building back and putting parking in front, and meeting with Steve and Michelle, I think we convinced Sam and Ken that this was probably a more appropriate plan to keep continuity on Main Street.
The alley that's shown on the north side, is that currently a public alley?
Yes.
It is? Okay.
That's
To the
the
north,
one, that's a one-way.
to the north and the south, are the current uses residential on each side of this?
On the south, I'm not sure what the name of the business is, but it's got a little craft shop.
Okay, I know
shop
the one.
there. That's
I think
what's
the north
south.
is residential, but on the other side of the alley.
What's on the south?
It's a craft shop.
Forever Green,
Sorry.
Forever Green.
Forever Green,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Understand, okay.
This may be a question down the road or something. The way it's right now, it's kind of residential. and there's not much lighting with a business. I don't know if you want to, you know, I say that's down the road, but that's a concern of mine is just the lighting aspect. I don't know what you're going to plan. I know.
Sure I can address that now. Again,
I know.
We've had a minimal conversation of what the building might look like. Again, you know, I like seeing new buildings look old, you know, fit the streetscape. I'm not sure what they have in mind as far as textures on the building, whether it be brick or vinyl or aluminum or.
You know, I say it's down the road, but
We haven't gotten that far. yet.
something to think about is, that's a concern of mine, is about the lighting situation.
Well, again, I mean, in the rear of the building, you gotta want to light enough that your customers can get out of the car and walk safely to the building. You want all the light to shine inward so it doesn't intrude into adjoining properties. And,
Actually, I think currently there is a pole light there in the back of the alley. I believe. And it's pretty bright in the back right now currently because of the stop sign, the three-way stop sign and stuff. I think there is light back there.
And without scaling this, I'm assuming you're going to meet all the zoning setbacks, appropriate zoning setbacks for the property? Okay.
With the widening of the alley, do you plan on changing that to two-way? It's one-way now.
yes, we want to make.
We had talked about that, correct.
Yeah, that's it. The only site plan wise, I kind of like what I see. What I'm having trouble with is I'm probably the only one in this room that uses that alley every single day. Because I'm at Passauer Miller Insurance. So I'm the one that turns left going to work every morning and backs up traffic to the nursing home. So, if that's the main entrance to Long Lane, we're gonna back up traffic to Miller's and the nursing home regularly. Because I do it every single morning trying to turn in, because our office is Passauer Miller here, so I have to turn in here because this is a one-way going out. I can't turn there and then going to the stoplight's kind of ridiculous. Trying to get across that traffic going the other morning. So there's times where I'll have 10 cars behind me and nothing's going to happen, so I just go straight, go to the post office, make a U-turn, come back across the stoplight, come back down Long Lane and go into my office. It takes me 15 minutes sometimes from Sheets to get from Sheets to the office.
That's morning rush, right?
Yeah, well, morning and afternoon, once school
Morning
lets out
rush
at like
wouldn't
3:30.
necessarily be an issue unless other people started to use it as a cut-through.
And they don't
Yeah.
open till 9 or 10.
9 or 10.
Right.
That's
You're
true.
talking about hitting
That's true.
southbound on Main Street and then trying to make a left hand in the long lane.
Yeah,
The issue for this business here at those hours in the morning.
it'd be more evening hours, I think.
Of course, you're gonna have northbound traffic, one's probably gonna stop in here and
Right.
right in and right out.
Typically, the northbound traffic backs up, and I go in that alley sometimes, and they'll let you in. So the southbound doesn't back up, because the northbound is so backed up that somebody will let you in. So I don't think that,
In the evenings.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like I say, in the morning, they're not gonna open until 10, so I don't think that would be an issue.
True. True.
Is this property in the area that has on-street parking, or is this just to the north of that? There's on-street parking in front of it still?
It's probably about
Maybe the last house?
4 spaces. Do you know, Michelle? 4 or 5.
Okay. Couple things to keep in mind is going to be compliance with the sign ordinance. They won't have a grandfather condition where the sign's going to be hanging out over the right-of-way as they currently do today. It'd be nice to see the residential portion accessing to the street, not having them work around to the back, so you do keep the residential character as much as possible.
As far as the front door you're talking about, yeah, sure.
I mean, 'cause you have to provide an access point for them somewhere.
Again, I would see that access on the south side of the building, you know,
Okay.
front side, something like that. They'd have more of a private entrance for the residents upstairs.
Okay.
Is the moratorium gonna apply? They won't be able to build it until next year.
Right, I don't think they'll be ready.
They'll need to get in the queue.
Yeah, the moratorium's on till August,
Mhm.
and I don't think,
Well, they currently are 3 units. So they're not, technically, the moratorium is for any additional sewer connections that we haven't already
that's
accounted
true
for.
too, that's true also.
And
that's
they are
correct.
accounted for.
Yeah, because it's an apartment house currently,
Right.
so that's true, yes.
So the new building won't have to go through like the impact fees and all that kind of thing? Really?
So you're looking for a motion to
Made me
proceed
pay.
with your plans?
Yeah, just some sort of direction that the plan looks acceptable, so I can report back to my clients. And
Okay.
they can make an investment in the property and continue forward.
Right, right.
Okay, any questions? Do we want to make a motion of some type?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say acceptable. I would say that it's not out in left field,
Right.
but I'll stop short of saying acceptable for obvious reasons.
Right. Feasible, maybe,
Feasible.
plausible.
Yep.
We're not looking, they're not looking for any type of motion, just
I know.
a general,
Sense that they're
comments.
moving in the right direction.
Right, because they will go back and go through the entire site plan
Right.
process.
At this point, nobody's dead set against it.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
That's what he's looking
Right.
Right, I think that's what we're looking for, because again, when we started out, we gave them 4 different sketches.
Right.
And what they instructed me to do, the one that they thought they wanted, but not the one that they chose. They actually chose this one themselves, which I thought was the right decision. It was keeping with Main Street, and the way the building should look, along the street, and landscape and lighting, those sort of things. So, again, they just want to make sure they're heading in the right direction before they make an investment in the property. Because I'm sure this is, a pretty big investment for them, but they're leasing now, so this would be, right there.
Okay. Any other comments?
Nope.
Do we hear a motion?
I don't think we need a motion.
No motion.
Okay, just
Just,
go
I
ahead.
think,
We're back to the.
Just go ahead and
it's
proceed.
feasible and-
yeah,
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
Okay,
Okay,
in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you much. Okay, number 5 on our agenda is Stigers Overlook. And I think the main concern tonight is the traffic study, it seems to be.
I think they have a presentation for us.
Yeah.
Rich DeMario, Development Design Consultants. This is a continuation of our last meeting from September 18th, I think it was. At that point, we had kind of stalled on some of the issues on Maiden Lane and how traffic was moving about. Since then, we've met with some of the town staff, also with the chief of the fire department, and reviewed some of our stuff. Then we created a more formal booklet, which I hope that everybody's had an opportunity to review. And what we'd like to do tonight is just address your concerns and get a better understanding of what the commission would like us to, how we can move forward with our project. So with that, I didn't have a formal presentation, but I'd just like to ask or address any questions or concerns.
I think we have some concerns out here in the audience. Anybody want to voice any concerns with the traffic study?
No one's on to speak?
Okay, would you come forward, please?
Sure. My name is Tom Bolden, and I'm owner of Carroll Drugs of Manchester Pharmacy there on the corner. One of the proposed traffic pattern changes would be changing to one-way, I guess going north instead of currently south. I have a lot of seniors that use the pharmacy, and it looks like that they have, a reverse kind of angle parking suggestion. I myself have never done that, and I wouldn't think that seniors have done that. So it seems to me that it would be that a difficult way to park, other than having to reline and redesign the parking pattern. For me, I would suggest that more study be done with that, on how that actual parking is done. And that's basically my concern.
Okay, thank you.
Who owns the parking lot? Do you own the existing parking, the way the spaces are laid out now? Is
Yeah,
that,
the first 7 spots, I believe, belong to me. Then they, following the, after the dumpster where the little parking area is, that's downtown parking. And that is straight-in parking.
Correct.
currently, So that wouldn't be affected. But mine is angled. And so angled with the one-way as they come down the street. So what he's proposing is that they would come in and then back in
into
at
the
an
spots.
angle, which would seem to be difficult for a young driver, a new driver. It would be difficult for myself, especially in one-way traffic, because the person behind you is going to have to give you enough space. You're going to have to go up and then angle in. So as we all know, at rush hour, it's a difficult pattern currently, the way it is. So I think that would make it more difficult. Also, there's a backup coming one way to get out. And I think what he suggested is that further down on the other side of the building, that there may be more leeway for people to get out there and easier to make a left-hand turn from that point instead of currently if they're coming out in front of my building on the east side, I guess.
Yes.
I could address that in saying that a lot of people, when they come up to that stop sign, go straight, which eases the backup a little bit. And currently, they wouldn't be able to get out that way, so that backup may impede further. I'm not sure how they would address that study. Or in the study.
True.
So I would like to see more with that, maybe even looking into some of the driving schools. Younger people, my son just finished driving class. I don't know that he ever did rear angle parking. I know that it's not part of the state test, so that's a major concern.
Okay,
Also, if that was adopted, who would then pay for the changing of the space if we decided to make it a straight and perpendicular parking? You know, if that got changed. I think that's about it.
very good, thank you.
Steve, who owns all that parking by the post office? Rob and I were talking about that. Is that town?
Town.
It is all
yes,
town
that is
parking?
correct,
Okay.
yes.
and going back to your question about changing the angle to straight in, would you lose, is there a possibility you might lose a spot? How would that play?
I don't believe you could do straight in. I don't think we have enough width there to,
Don't have enough?
sure.
Right, that's probably, she's probably right about
Yeah,
that.
it's not wide enough, you'd have to
That's
angle.
why we angle now, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
Do we have any other citizens? No.
I don't want to
Okay.
interrupt the flow, but we would not have room for 90-degree parking. We just don't, we simply don't have it, which is why it evolved into the angled parking. So from bumper to bumper on the bank side and on the pharmacy side, from the end of the white line, we've got about 23 feet to work with. And if you turn it to 90 degrees, you're going to be even smaller than that. So I think that would, and then you still have to have the area to maneuver to back out. So I don't know that would satisfy or solve any of the issues that we have.
Is it the travel lane that's causing the problem with the going to a 90-degree parking stall?
Yes, one of the comments that, let me interrupt the microphone, sorry. One of the issues is when you have a travel lane, and this is a little different than a parking lot at one of the retail stores because that's a private situation. this is a public thoroughfare, and AASHTO, which is a nationally recognized organization that sets traffic standards, does not advise anything of where you would actually be backing out into the travel lane. So they would look at the situation that we have between the bank and the pharmacy currently as an undesirable situation, which is how come they developed the back-end parking. And I can appreciate having a couple of teenagers go through, well, let's just say remodeling the family car a couple of times. They don't have a lot of experience, but they do teach them how to parallel park. And parallel parking and the rear end or back end parking is very similar. The idea is that you would pull up, you'd signal your left hander, you'd pull past the space, and then you would back in looking over your left shoulder. The advantage to that is, of course, now you don't have a lane that you're backing into, and you can look out over your right eye and see the oncoming traffic. So actually pulling out is actually a much safer maneuver, which is why AASHTO, when you do back-end parking, eliminates that 10-foot safety zone that you would have otherwise. And the only example I could think of around here that I readily saw is up on Southwestern Boulevard. There's a little pocket recreation area that has parking lot that's set back, and the only reason it was set back, at least as my understanding from Bob Ward, is so that it would have that safety zone. So, you know, it's not unusual for us to put a safety zone in for parking adjacent to a travel lane. We just don't have the real estate there to do anything really very different.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that the pulling out is easier, but I will say that with a number of senior citizens, their flexibility tends to get a little bit less as they age, and that maneuver to back up is a little problematic. My concern would be that you're going to have incidental vehicular damage because they're clipping cars in adjacent spots.
You would have to agree that for them to get in, they've got to back up one direction or
Right,
the other.
right.
So it's the same problem. If they're mobility challenged to turn and look.
I agree with that.
It's going to happen
Right.
in either.
The only thing I would say is that if you're backing out of a spot, you're unlikely to probably hit the two cars next to you. Now you have to worry about somebody coming. And maybe it's a little less risky because the person who's coming sees the car backing up and hopefully they stop. Just an observation, I understand the constraints you're working with, but just from my seeing behaviors in parking lots with seniors, you generally see them try to pull in the spots where they can pull straight out and have no backup maneuver whatsoever, so. But I understand the constraints of the site.
One thing, Tom, you might appreciate is when people load their car, currently what they need to do is stand out in that travel lane.
Oh, that's true.
To load stuff in the back of their car. And if you did go to a back-end parking, now they're going to be on the sidewalk and in a safer environment to load their car. A minor point, but something to consider.
Well, just sitting here, I thought, again, and in your comments, I actually stimulated this thought. If I'm backing in to a spot at an angle like this, I'm going to look to my left, correct?
Correct, yes.
As I look to my left, I'm now not looking behind me where the car is that I could hit. So I'm missing a view that's important because I'm not looking directly behind me. If I pull in, as the way I do now, or they do at an angle, and they go to back up, they back like this and look behind them. The other observation I would make is that when they're backing in now, they have three things to watch out for: the car behind them, and then two cars beside them. And then if I'm pulling in, it's fairly easy to maneuver into any spot. And as I pull out, again, I'm only looking in one direction.
Right. And I agree with all of your points, Tom. I think the only difference, the only reason I even suggested that the back-end parking is because of what AASHTO recommends when you have parking adjacent to a travel lane. This seemed to be the only solution I could find that would
would get you in compliance with national standards. That's really why I suggested that.
Is this a requirement of his building, the changing the direction, or is that just a suggestion?
I'm
It's a
kind of
suggestion.
I'm missing something. I don't know why we're going up the street when the issue is down at Wood and your entrance. I don't understand what.
Well, part of their investigation was
I-
some traffic improvements.
I understand that, but it still doesn't help the entrance into.
Well,
Serious.
at the other one,
Yeah.
at the end, at the other ones, he's got the hook and ladder coming in. You can't get into Maiden Lane other than without the reverse traffic.
Well, I guess we ought to look at that issue then.
Well, I went out and stepped it off back in September when they were last in here, just stepping off with my feet. But we have something similar, almost the same as, and something you can really look at is at the no blocks where they have the actual curbing there. It's very difficult for two vehicles. You know, if you got a vehicle sitting there that wants to come out, and then another vehicle trying to come in, it's just. I know you showed us with all your computer graphics and stuff, you know, with all your turns and all your models and everything. I understand that. But I was sitting there with the truck and trying to, I think we still have issues. It doesn't matter if you go up the street. I think we still have issues right at your entrance. That's what we need to talk about, I think.
Do we have other citizens?
Hmm?
Do we have other citizens that want to make comment tonight?
Hello, I'm Douglas Patterson. I live down the street, kind of in between the pharmacy and where Stegger's Overlook's going now. A couple of concerns when I heard about some of the directional traffic, just from living in the area. My first concern is if you would be coming off of 30 and you would make that right into that with the telephone pole or the utility pole that's right there on the corner, kind of like what you were saying. You know, the first couple parking lots are usually handicap, I believe, up there in the front. So if you'd be coming in, you'd almost have to kind of swing wide to actually make the turn, or you're going to be turning right into the first or second car right there. That's my first concern. The second concern is I see that with making that one way, they now want to direct the traffic in 2 lanes around the post office. So when you come around the post office, you could actually make a left or make the right. If anybody's ever come that way, especially during school let out, anywhere between the time, I would say maybe 3:30, 4 o'clock, you always have that traffic backed up at the light, at least to the drive-through at BB&T. So now I'm going to have this whole lane that's looking to turn towards the square, backing up in front of the post office. Plus now I'm going to have all the people backed in, looking, waiting to get out. You know, that's a second concern. The third concern is the width of the alley. You'd have to be an extremely good driver to get either the mail truck or a piece of equipment in that way. And if you decided not to go that route, then your next route is to either have them come in New Street and shoot all the way up the alley, or come down at the other end of Maiden Lane and turn and come up. With that, you just have an increase of traffic of bigger vehicles, and there is a certain area right there by Knobloch's that is very, very narrow. The garage basically sits right on the side of the road, and I know just in 2 full-size vehicles trying to get through there, usually it's kind of like they treat it as a 1-lane bridge. A lot of times you kind of give the courtesy, you know. I'd feel sorry for the person that would meet up with either the tool truck with now the garage back there, the mail truck coming in, or anything like that. And then last but not least, I didn't see the full drawing, but I would hope that somewhere along the line there'd be a stop sign somewhere in the middle of that alley. Because as of now, it's basically like a small raceway. I can hear the mufflers as soon as they make the turn at the post office, and usually they don't let off of it until they're just about where the wood alley's at. So that would be my only other concern, is some type of a speed restriction like they would have on the other end of town with having a stop sign somewhere in there just to kind of break the traffic. So that's just my only thoughts that can be taken with the whole thing. I mean, that's just from living in the alley.
That's a good
Thank
thing.
you, Mark.
Do you front onto Maiden Lane or do you front onto Main Street?
I front on the Maiden Lane.
Okay.
I'm actually 2 houses up from about where they're at.
Okay.
Okay. One of the newer ones.
It's a little, there's a paved road that's showing right there. I'm the next house to the south of that paved road.
I'm Linda Chappelle, and I'm the postmaster, and I share a lot of the same concerns. One of my concerns, other than what they've stated as far as the backing and parking, is that the mail delivery is served on that section of Maiden Lane in a northbound manner, so that anybody that has a mailbox up on Maiden Lane now would have to move their box to the other side of the street or lose their mail delivery. Another thing is where it's gonna be 2 lanes in front of the post office, that mailbox, the collection box, is not gonna work the way it is right now, because people can't pull in, drop it off, mail off from the driver's side and go on their way. They would have to, get out to drop the mail into a box, which would also be a part of the problem. The other, I could move the mailbox across, but now I've got to send a person out walking across 2 lanes of uncontrolled traffic to pick up the mail out of the box and haul it back to the post office, which I don't like at all. My mail trucks, the big trucks that are highway contract routes that come in from Baltimore, aren't going to be able to make that turn. I don't even know that they could turn onto up New Street and onto the alley and make that turn, because it's awful close there with the garages that are in that area. So they would be rerouting mail routes, they would be rerouting highway contract routes, and I think it would be a real safety issue.
Okay, thank you.
One question. The highway contract route trucks, are those small tractor trailers or are those large box
No,
trucks?
They're all straight trucks, large
Okay.
box trucks.
24-footer?
Yes.
Probably 30, SU-30s.
Yeah.
I think they're 30.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I respond a little bit.
Yes, go ahead.
I probably should have briefed a little bit on the report. We actually looked at a couple of different alternatives. Okay, one of the alternatives is making no change whatsoever. And we felt that was a viable alternative because there are a host of, just like the postmaster was saying, there's a lot of unintended consequences that, as an engineer, I don't consider, additional charges for rerouting contract trucks and such. So a no change is always a possibility. Then the question becomes are the traffic concerns on Maiden Lane at Westminster Street so severe that we're willing to go through changes where folks parking in front of the pharmacy have to reorient how they do it and such. So we actually looked at a couple of in-betweens too. So between the no change, I think we all felt like, I should say, certainly on my team side, and I think when we discussed it with the town, that part of the root of this problem is that Route 30 at Westminster Street in York is a failed intersection. And the problem that we're talking about at Maiden Lane and Westminster Street typically only occurs when the peak traffic occurs on Route 30. So by observation, I've noticed that there are some times when Route 30 is cleared and yet York Street and Westminster Street still have long queues. So one of the alternatives that we would suggest is having State Highway evaluate if their timing is right. So some nights I come out at 5:30 and I can get right through the intersection. Some nights it's 7 o'clock and it's still jammed up. I'm not sure how they can be responsive to that, a lot of weather dependency. So, if there's any concerns about, maybe we ought to hear from the citizens whether
there is a significant problem that they would be, or would they be okay with no changes? The other one that might be in between is if the problem is that folks are coming out southbound on Main Street, southbound on Maiden Lane and have to wait 2 or 3 lights to queue, perhaps if we routed them another direction with some signage might take some of those cars away. So that third alternative was, so that if you come out, when you come out from the post office, that we have some signage here that would tell you, instead of accessing Main Street through Maiden Lane at Westminster, that you would go to the north end of Maiden Lane and access 330 that way. Just something that would be in between and maybe not have the same impact on the local business and the post office. So I don't know if anybody had any comments from those other alternatives, but I just wanted to make sure that we're not focused only on the most, I don't want to say the most severe, it has the most things that occur because of all of the directional changes.
Two things to mention. One, when Doug was talking, Postmaster was talking about the tractor trailers that come in. I have a monthly delivery also, and just visualizing those poles, they get hit a lot. I've almost hit them myself just leaving there at night, so you have to kind of swing out to get around them. So for a tractor trailer to come in, I think it would be difficult. The second one is I would be against rerouting that traffic because a very common trip to town for some people is a 3-way stop. They pull into my lot and they go to the bank and they go to the post office, and then sometimes they come into the pharmacy too. For those people, when you make one stop and walk to those 3 areas, it's very convenient for them. And it does keep traffic off the road rather than parking over at the post office, pulling out, coming around, parking again at the bank and pulling out. So it's one stop instead of 3 stops. And yes, also business-wise, I would prefer not to route people away from my business.
One comment, I didn't mention that part of our study, we did look at how we could relocate the post office drop lots. And I think that there may be some solutions that we can come up with that would maybe take a few more steps from one of the postal employees to get to, but would do it in a safe manner. And I did want you to know that we had thought about that, and perhaps on the side we haven't developed a complete plan, we're just kind of a planning study, but we did consider it, and I think there is a solution for you.
I was looking at it, other than bringing somebody into my lot, my rear lot, which I don't want, because
Right.
we have enough traffic there already. We don't get hit, almost hit frequently, because if you're moving back there, come around and come back out. I can't imagine, I don't want you crossing traffic, if that's my concern. And,
Right.
if you can come up with a suggestion where that would be applied, then it's possible.
Okay.
I've got
Yes,
some
ma'am.
concern about the turning into Wood Drive as well as the traffic turning into the new development. A few months ago, there was.
Larry, you've got to go to the mic or.
Can we,
Come to the mic,
can we
please.
move?
We have some concerns with the chalk lines that were on Wood Drive. There's a proposed wall that's supposed to be built there. Without the wall there wouldn't be enough room to bring in a fire truck to support the houses that are back there in case of an emergency. Rooms down to the loading. So I called down and asked them if they could check with the fire department if there's an alternative there. We do have a concern with bringing fire trucks into the existing property. And we still have.
And they did.
very huge concern in regards to what everybody else is saying is that reconforming the whole entire neighborhood would be a real detriment to the senior citizens of the area.
Okay, thank you.
What she was talking about with the white lines, there was a question of where the proposed Stager Drive would be located. So we went out with powder paint, which is something that fades away rather quickly, and just roughly sprayed where those lines would be, and that's probably what we saw. We would not be impacting the width of Wood Drive, and I understand your concern, but I can assure you that if the truck can get there today, it'll still be able to get there once that retaining wall is constructed. There will be no obstacles caused or further interference caused by that retaining wall. And I can show you the widths and such on the plan, but I do feel very comfortable that it would not impact fire truck access to the property. Let me do it this way then. If I show you today, if I scale off of this today, the location of that it scales about maybe about 10, 12 feet wide.
We can bring that up.
In the right of way between the face of the retaining wall and the property, you have about 40 feet. So if the fire truck can get on that 10-foot road today, it still has 5 more feet on either side of that road, if that helps you understand what I'm saying.
If there's no wall there existing, there's room for air there now,
The truck
because
should
there's
not,
grass.
the truck should not be hitting the wall, or if it's grass today, and that, the fire truck turning in would not be caught the future location of that retaining wall. It would not be true.
From Michelle, the fire department, did they agree with that?
We do.
The fire department has commented, they have all the comments, and the commission has the comments also, so they.
The fire department has commented that not only won't the truck make it, based on the drawings, but the additional ladder truck that Westminster would bring is even larger and still won't make the turn.
Let's
So,
make that clear, that's into the new development,
To the development.
not into Wood Drive. They're not commenting on Wood Drive, they're commenting on
turning
Stager Drive,
into
into the new
Stager,
development.
right,
Right.
which,
Well, those are our concerns.
but yeah,
No, I understand that, but just
Right.
for clarity of what the fire department actually said in their letter.
It's the large ladder truck they're expressing concern on.
so then there's the additional comments that are made about the outriggers. The outriggers on the ladder truck extend 16 feet, which there's not enough room in the proposed development for him to extend the outriggers. So, I personally have not seen any option, any plan anywhere that makes me feel comfortable with any type of ladder truck getting into this facility via Maiden Lane, turning into it, turning on Wood. You know, we've gone a long way at this point, but just based on public safety, I don't see this working, period.
Okay, let me address the fire department's letter, point blank. There's a couple things that, and I spoke to Don Knott today. I've tried many times to speak to him. We had a meeting here with Don. I represented to the board in September that when we sat here, Don had understood our turning radiuses and that he would be issuing a letter saying that he was okay with that. On the 15th, we got a letter saying that he wasn't. A couple of things that he outlined in his letter that I took issue with. I think that he's in error in some of the points there, and I mentioned to Don that I was going to say, if it came up, that his letter was in error, and I asked him if he could be present tonight, and unfortunately, he's not able to come tonight, and he wasn't able to have a representative from the fire department come. And we talked a little bit about what I thought was wrong with his comments. let's start with the turning movements. The Hampstead fire truck is a 39-foot long vehicle. What I modeled was.
With a 7-foot overhang on the front
Correct.
because of the
Correct.
pumping outrigger.
That's right, exactly true.
Right.
And closest
So it's a
vehicle-
45-foot vehicle.
It has a 7-foot. He put in his letter that I think it said 4.5 foot from the windshield, but you don't measure it from the windshield, you measure it from the wheels. That's what
From the
makes the
axle.
difference, is the wheelbase.
Yeah.
I mean, turning movements are wheelbase, not windshield base, so. The vehicle I modeled, and this is the same vehicle that I showed him in our workshop, has a
Right, right.
7-foot overhang from the wheelbase. And I don't know that, that he understood that that's the vehicle that most closely represents the Hempstead ladder truck.
Okay.
Okay? So when you model that truck, and I went down and I talked to the operators in the Hampstead Fire Department about how they use it, when they come to a fire scene, they like to back it in. It didn't matter where, because that's where the pivot for the ladder is, it's in the rear of the truck. That's how they operate it. Because that's the way they operate it, it actually has a better turning movement on it than the bus that I used. The wheels rotate further. So what I'm saying is, I think my model is actually very conservative. I can't defend it in front of Donnie because he has a different opinion.
Right.
But I've not been able to talk to him about it. So once we get past that, the vehicle can turn into that site, we have to look at, is this entrance any different than what the county standard is? And I would tell you it's not. This is the same county standard for a driveway that we use in thousands of places across the county. If it doesn't work here, it doesn't work anywhere. And I think it does work in not a lot of other places. So I think that when I said to Donnie, if you don't like my intersection here, because I'm using a county standard, what would you like to see? Would you like to see 5 feet more, 10 feet more? I didn't get that. I didn't get any response. So I can't understand what he's looking for because he, didn't articulate it. But so I think the fire department's letter is not accurate. He also says in his letter that he's concerned that he can't get all the way around the building. The county standard for fire protection is not to fight a fire from 4 sides of the building, it's to fight it from 2 sides. We have approval from Brian Van Fossen, who is the county's fire protection reviewer, and I talked to him subsequent to our September 18th meeting to verify this. He does not require a building have paved access all the way around the building, which is what I think Don's looking for. Don's also.
But is that for ladder truck responses or just normal 2-story buildings?
When
I think that's
Brian-
only
when
for
Brian
2-story
did this plan,
buildings.
It was the same plan that's presented today. It's been a 3-story building since '07 when Brian Van Fossen looked at this.
Right.
So it is exactly the same building and.
So the other concern now is he's backed in a 45-foot truck with 16-foot outriggers, which completely blocks. There's a second responder truck, which is a normal fire truck. Then you have an ambulance or 2 and a police vehicle on a big fire response to that building.
Right. And one
You
of the things-
physically can't put them in there. I don't care what the county says.
the county
You
did-
physically cannot put them in that parking.
Okay, when I talked to Don Knott about this part of it, it comes down to, do you have a site plan for fighting a fire here? And it's pretty common for fire departments that they practice a fire at a hazardous building. And I asked him, would he develop one for this? And he agreed he would. And part of that plan would need to include how he would respond to the fire. So obviously, if the fire is here on Maiden Lane, the first vehicle, and probably first several vehicles, are going to come right from the local
Here.
fire department. And it's going to be 10, 15 minutes before the ladder truck makes it up from Hampstead. In the meantime, part of the fire department's plan should be enacted, and that should, and Donnie and I talked about this, it should include things about how the vehicles are arranged, how the site or the incident commander manages deployment of the trucks. I know that the fire department's policy, from Donnie, this is him talking, so I'm telling you things that I've learned from him. The first truck in drops a hose, and they can very quickly block up a site. And that's why they would develop a plan, so that we don't block up a site. In the fire department's letter, there's a couple comments about hydrants. We haven't located hydrants yet because we're still at the preliminary plan. And we'll put hydrants wherever the fire department feels like that works the best for them. And if it means that the hydrant that we have for this building, so that the first truck in doesn't see a hydrant up here, it has to go all the way down here so that there's room to get the ladder truck deployed, that's part of what the next phase would be in designing the location of the hydrant. So I think there's an ability for us to come up with a viable plan to fight a fire in a 3-story sprinkler building. We have to be careful that we don't pyramid disasters. One of the comments he had was that, what if we pile snow up in the way? Well, I agree with him, that would be a problem. So we can't plow snow to block ourselves in. We have to push snow in places like all the way to a couple of the empty parking spaces. And we have ample parking. We have 40 spaces shown for 18 units. So there'll probably be a couple of extra spaces that we can put snow in, or I would hope that that would be the case. I think that if we had an opportunity to be face-to-face with the fire chief, I think we would be able to get through some of these concerns. But I haven't been able to do that.
Has anyone considered calling up Hampstead and bringing the truck up on a Saturday morning?
Well, where are we going to bring it to? The site's not built.
But you got lines marked off there, you know how wide it is. I don't think you can back in there.
Okay, well, maybe that's a good
I mean,
point. Maybe what we can do
you know-
is mark the same lines off in their
Right.
parking lot in Hampstead. We don't
Right.
Actually, I could have them do it in
school.
Hampstead.
Pardon? No. I want to do it right there. I want to do it on wood.
I want to see the truck get back there.
Exactly. I want to see it happen
I
right
still
there.
don't, I still don't think the truck can make the turn
I don't think so
behind I still don't think that truck can make the turn where the masonry guy has his building. And then I don't think the truck can back in, to that
All right, well, I
property.
think, Sterling, would you be okay if we requested that?
Right.
I mean, I've done that before, in the county.
Yeah.
Just make a dry run.
I want to see him do the rear angle parking.
No.
Right.
I think to address one of your
I mean, it sounds
concerns,
like what I'll do is I'll ask the Hampstead Fire Department. Our first choice will be to ask them to bring it to Maiden Lane. But I do want the board to recognize it's not built yet. But we can get past, if we can get it there, we can figure it out. If not, if they won't bring it up here, maybe we can, cone off their parking lot adjacent to their building at least, and can consider it that way. And hopefully they'll be okay with that.
I think to one of the board's concerns about the back in, and your response being that, well, it's a county standard, then what do you want? County standard normally has a wider roadway than what Maiden Lane's offering. I think that's where part of the concern is that it is a very narrow roadway there. There's parking pads and garages that are immediately adjacent to it. So if for some chance we do end up having to go to an alternative site, the Hampstead parking lot, another parking lot in the area to do this exercise, we need to make sure that we understand the limitations on where he's going to be able to swing and where he's not going to.
Okay.
Okay.
Keep in mind too that they don't take their ladder truck off the paved surface, so.
Right.
When we get it to Maiden Lane, we will not be allowed to.
To back it into the dirt.
I can almost guarantee you, they're not gonna let the tire touch grass.
Right.
Is that, Steve, do you know if that's fair to say or not?
Stone.
I think we'll do, if they come up to do a demo, they're gonna do as much of a demo as they can.
Right.
I mean, they're gonna push it to the limit and
Right.
see what it can do.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we're giving it the fairest shot possible,
Yeah, so
knowing that
the
we
same
may
parameters.
need to put up some barricades down the side where the garages would be and whatever the width is.
If we can't do it on site.
Right, agreed.
Yeah.
moving along
as
here.
best as possible.
I did
go
actually
in there
look,
today
I
for
did
the
actually look
fire.
through some of the others.
They go in there today.
Now, with the ladder truck, they wouldn't have a need for a ladder truck to deploy there.
But for a house?
Well, you're beyond what I know, Doug.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You know,
It's on the assignment, I mean,
On the-
you know,
yeah.
yeah. I mean,
They're gonna get back
yeah,
there.
you're gonna utilize that as much as you can.
Yeah.
Right.
They're gonna go.
Say that again, repeat.
We were saying about they wouldn't be able to do it as a demo because it's well, it's actually stone. If there's a fire back there today, they're going back there.
Right.
If that's the vehicle they need, yeah.
Exactly.
They need, but they won't need a ladder truck
As
back.
long as you can get them in.
They'll figure out some way to get
It's
them
not,
out.
it's not, they don't have
Exactly.
this,
That's the rule
thing
of
that,
thumb.
this ladder truck can't go
Worry
off a
about
hard
getting them out
pavement.
later.
Right,
That's-
typically on the box now, with the county standard, it's 2 ladder trucks.
You're gonna
Yeah.
get 2 trucks on.
It is. It's a second responder.
Correct.
This would be 2.
Yeah.
And you are aware that the existing garage that's shown
Comes down.
here is coming down, so I mean, that would
Correct.
not be one of the buildings.
It's the garages that are on the east side of Maiden Lane and their driveways that I believe are going to be the problem when he starts whipping around. That 7-foot nose overhang is going to want to kick out a great deal.
I know it's a
Yes.
small scale, but they do show it.
And I think where you had it originally painted off, the existing garage is being tore down, that didn't come into play. So it shouldn't come into play, that shouldn't have any,
Right. Yeah,
but
that's-
what he's saying,
Yeah.
that does come into
It's
play.
it's the nose swing that I'm referencing for the concern there.
Yep.
You know, if I could add something also to make everybody feel comfortable, because I know there was comments from the back of the room back there. When we do this recreation, okay, if we can do the entrance to your facility and also the relocation, of course, of Wood Drive. So that would make the residents in the back feel a lot more comfortable too. So while we're doing a recreation, let's do that full recreation out there, because I want to know where Wood Drive's going to end up. That's a question that I have. So, you know.
It's not
that's-
where it's
I know.
existing.
I had, you know.
Me and you
I-
talked about
but
that
that's- That's down the road.
Very answers, yeah. Question on the, on a different subject, still vehicular though. Trash service. The modeling that was done for the trash service appears to require that one of the parking stalls be left empty for him to make his turnaround, as well as, looks like the curb may be in the way there.
We actually changed that. You're talking about this last
Yes.
spot here. That's now a delivery-only space.
Okay. And the curb that is in between it and the parking lot there to the west?
This curb line.
Yes.
It's okay.
Okay, because on my model, it looks like it's
Okay,
jumping it.
What you probably see is there's a couple of sets of lines on there. There's a set for the front tires, a set for the rear tires.
Yep.
And then there's a set of lines that's for the outer envelope of the vehicle. The outer envelope of the vehicle does pass over the top of the curb, but it's not interfering.
Let's just double check those rear tires, because it looks like they're going to be really close. We may need to widen that stall a little bit, if you've now made it for delivery anyways.
And I have the room to do that, so if I need to, I got.
Yeah, that's what I
got
heard.
room to do that.
The tire
I'm
is
over by
yellow
4 parking spaces, so I really
The
can
red is the
Okay.
yellow.
easily.
And you're over by 4 after we've taken this delivery space out?
Correct.
Okay.
Which is why, if we remember in September, that's why we went to the additional parking back here. And we also dropped 4 spaces here,
Right.
so we do have ample room
Okay.
for that.
A delivery space has different dimensions.
Yes, it's
And
wider.
that's in the code book too, so it's not just a regular parking spot.
Right.
Okay.
I think I'm showing 14 feet.
I didn't check that, I was just.
You're showing 13 on your sketch here, so you can make it 14. Looks like you got room to move that curve
Yeah.
over. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad to see that the trash truck is no longer backing all the way out, which was one of the concerns. That was going to be quite noisy for the residents in the area. Okay. Okay. There was another question I had.
I'm sorry, I just had one question for your parking. You say you got 40 parking spaces, correct?
Correct.
And 4 of those 40 are out along the front road as you come in.
No, that's not correct.
That would be
So
44.
if we added 4s there, that would be 44, but that's not it.
Because when you're saying about leaving some extra parking spots open for the snow removal and everything like that, if you do have 18 units and God forbid that you got 2 people in each unit and they're both driving, you do have your 4, but if you're taking up one for the delivery and things like that, is that all over and above that?
The delivery space does not count towards the 40. So what I have is 40 that would be along this, the western side, the northern side, and then a side parking lot. In the August plan, and the plan that we've had for a couple of years now, we had always been showing 4 parallel spaces along the stem up here. And when we went to this plan, there had been some concern whether those were viable spaces anyway. We dropped them off the plan, so what typically happens with these type of communities, we don't see everybody having 2 cars, even though code looks for 36 spaces. You know, it probably realistically would be more like 25 to 28 cars. Where you'll see those spaces become important are when there are holidays, the people that live there have family over for Thanksgiving, so that's when you see there's a surge. Some people leave, others come in, and that's where you
Speaking of the fire department.
base those numbers.
Okay.
Did you have time to look at the plans as far as the elevator versus the stairs where it blocks access? I brought that up last time. I don't know if you got that far, or we've been concentrating on the driving issue, I'm
We've really
thinking.
been concentrating on the driving issue. What you're talking about is part of the life safety code that the county building department will review to make sure that there's ample room for the doors are fire.
Well, yeah, it was, if the fire broke out at the rear of the facility, there's no exit. And I got a huge problem with that, being an insurance agent. Because the stairs and the elevator are both at the rear of the property. So the upstairs people have nowhere to go, if the fire's in the back. So, I just thought I'd mention that again.
I understand your concern. We'll make sure that when we commission the architecture and. it's
Yeah, we gotta get past
that
this
it'll-
first.
It'll be reviewed to make sure that it meets
Okay.
its standards.
Any other comments for Richard?
Do we need a motion to table it?
I'm looking
Based
forward
on
to the
the study, or-
demonstration myself.
I'd like to see the demo.
I have a comment I'd like to put just on the record for something for you to think about. In this new proposal where they're adding the additional parking, by changing the lot line of the existing house, I believe Mr. Lepa owns to begin with, we have to make sure that they are not making a non-conforming lot more non-conforming, or that we still have the setbacks to leave there after we change that lot line. And I haven't looked into that because I don't have any information on that lot.
So what you're saying that the 4 that the new 4 that they have proposed may not work?
I'm sure they've thought about it, I just
There may
have
be an
not
issue.
investigated
Is that
it
what
and I
you're
want it in
saying?
the records.
Pardon?
I'm sure they've thought about it, I haven't seen it because I don't have the dimensions on that lot and I don't have any information to make sure that we can change that lot line.
Right, the zoning is BL, there's an existing house, so what we had looked at, and make sure that you're comfortable with that, Michelle, I guess she's just putting it on the record,
Yes.
is that the lot line adjustment doesn't then make this
Non-conforming.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's the case, but we'll make sure that you
Yeah.
have all completely documented review.
Okay.
Solution there?
Okay, do you have a motion to table this issue until Maybe,
May I ask one question?
yes. Sure.
What we're headed toward is closure so we can get to preliminary plan. If there are other issues, we'd like to get them out also, so maybe not this forum, but the next time around, we can get a little closer to being able to move forward.
That existing house.
Yeah, I guess that's, well,
No, this is details.
the question then becomes, if we're only looking now at the demonstration for the fire truck, have we met our obligation for the circulation and the traffic analysis that we talked about in August and September?
I think you've presented us with several options as far as the traffic is concerned. And we've heard from, it sounds like the people that will be most affected by an alternative route being proposed. We are talking about a limited number of trips. I'm not quite sure that I necessarily agree that they will be all off-hour trips, because they're going to be somewhat active still. They will most likely still be somewhat contributing to the peak hours. I'm not sure that they're going to send anything over the edge. I mean, we're not talking that many units. I think the biggest questions as far as vehicular movements, in my opinion, at this point, is the fire access, his ability to get in there, his ability to get back out, and actually serve it without disrupting life as we know it for everyone else.
I agree.
The, my personal opinion, without any other people's opinion on the board, is that I really don't see this as a three-story site. I don't. You're going to have to do a lot of convincing on me to even see it proposed as a third-story building. I don't see it working as a third-story building. I mean, at this point, there's along with the fire protection from the fire department, there's the number of units and the increased traffic that I don't like that as well. So as far as anything past this, I personally don't have anything to offer study-wise, because I almost made a motion tonight to that it not be a three-story facility. But I will hold that until we do this study, or until we do this, till I'm absolutely confident that this that it's actually a safe facility. At this point, I don't feel at all that this is a safe facility for people to live in. So that's my comment.
Well, let's table this until you will be back in next month or March. Will that give us time to do the dry run, Steve?
Oh, that would not be up to me. Rich or the chief would have to coordinate that, so
Okay.
whenever that can be done.
Would it be okay if I found out what their time frame was and let Michelle know, and then if it's appropriate to be, if we can get it done, well, as soon as we get it done, we would like to come back, if that's, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it might be. We're gonna
That's fine.
obviously go with Hempstead's scheduling.
Okay.
And we'll all be present. I will.
Yeah, I want to
Consider a
see it.
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning is the best time, you think?
Yeah. Not Monday through Friday.
Yeah, that'll work.
Now, will they be doing the proposed,
I thought that too. I was.
No, I'll tell you right now, my inclination and I'm kind of getting the sense for the board, but I'm not going to speak for the board, is that the most, as I would put, draconian change to traffic routing is probably not what we're looking to do. So I think the concerns that you've raised somewhat mimic concerns that we on the board had to begin with regarding that. We tasked the developer to take a look at these options, and that's what they did for us. We asked them to do this, and so it's not like they're trying to say, this is what we want to do. We asked them to give us a variety of options to look at, and as Mr. DeMario indicated, he tried to design an option that met current safety standards. Doesn't mean we have to accept it and impose it on you. He's just, at our request, has looked at these various options. At this point, our main concern is to see if that fire truck can safely negotiate getting back into what would be proposed Steger Drive.
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
Would it be a table or would it be a continuance?
It continues.
It'd be a continuance.
Continuing, yeah.
Yeah, I make a
Just
motion
meet them.
that the review for Steger's overlook be continued.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So carried. Okay, thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Just gonna make a motion.
Oh, yeah.
Make a motion, we're going to adjourn at 8:45.
I second.
Aye.
Aye. Now